For nearly 500,000 years, the galaxy believed humanity was gone, wiped from existence, forgotten by time. But deep in the void, beyond the reach of any empire, Earth's children waited. They built, they watched, and they remembered. And when their fleets finally returned, they did not come to talk. The silent return commander Arya Kane stood before the massive observation window of the flagship Prometheus. Her reflection stared back at her, a woman who had never seen Earth except in ancient recordings. Behind her, the bridge crew worked in focused silence. Every person aboard knew what this moment meant. They were going home to a world none of them had ever touched. The Exodus fleet stretched out in all directions. 3,000 ships carrying the last remnants of humanity. For 450,000 years, humans had drifted through the void between galaxies, hiding in the cosmic darkness where no one would think to look. They had survived on generation ships, massive vessels that became entire worlds unto themselves. Children were born, lived, and died without ever setting foot on solid ground. But they all knew the stories. They all remembered Earth. Arya pressed her hand against the cold glass. In 30 seconds, they would make the final jump. In 30 seconds, they would see their ancestral home. Her heart pounded against her ribs. She had trained her entire life for this moment. Her mother had been a commander before her. Her grandmother before that. The Kane family had led humanity through the darkness for 200 generations, always moving forward, always preparing for this day. The tactical officer called out from his station. "Jump coordinates locked. All ships report ready. Awaiting your command, Commander." Arya took a deep breath. She thought about her ancestors who had fled Earth in terror. The Zephron Empire had appeared without warning. Their warships had filled the sky like locusts. They had given humanity one choice: leave or die. 10 billion humans had scrambled to escape. Only 5 million made it onto the evacuation ships before the Zephrons sealed the planet. Those who remained were never heard from again. The Zephrons had wanted Earth for themselves. They had coveted its water, its perfect atmosphere, its rich resources. They had taken it by force, and humanity had been powerless to stop them. But that was then. Humanity had spent nearly 500,000 years in exile. They had grown. They had learned. They had built weapons that would make the old Zephron Empire look like children playing with toys. "Initiate jump sequence," Arya commanded. Her voice was steady, betraying none of the emotion churning inside her. The universe twisted. Reality folded in on itself. For 3 heartbeats, Arya felt like she was being pulled apart and reassembled. Then the jump completed. Through the window, a blue and green sphere hung in the blackness of space. Earth. After 450,000 years, humanity had returned. Silence fell over the bridge. Every crew member stared at the planet. Some wept openly. Others pressed their hands to their chests as if trying to calm their racing hearts. Arya felt tears on her own cheeks but did not wipe them away. This was a moment that deserved tears. "Run a full scan," she ordered, forcing herself back into command mode. "I want to know everything about that planet. Population, military installations, defense networks, everything." The science officer worked quickly at her console. Data began flowing across multiple screens. Arya watched the numbers appear and her expression hardened. The planet was heavily populated. Approximately 12 billion life forms. Cities covered the continents. Orbital stations circled the planet. Ships moved between Earth and its moon. "They built an entire civilization on our world," the tactical officer said bitterly. "They took everything from us and made it theirs." Arya studied the scans more carefully. Something was odd. The technology readings were inconsistent. Some systems were advanced, but others seemed almost primitive. The military capabilities were surprisingly weak for such a large population. It made no sense. The Zephron Empire had been a military powerhouse. Why would their descendants have such poor defenses? "Commander, we are receiving a transmission," the communications officer announced. "Multiple sources. They are broadcasting on all frequencies." "Put it through," Arya said. A voice filled the bridge. It spoke in a language humanity had not heard in 450,000 years. But the translation software worked instantly. The fleet had prepared for this moment. "Unknown vessels, this is Vareth Traffic Control. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourselves immediately. We mean no harm, but will defend our world if necessary." Vareth. The name sent a chill through Arya. Not Zephron. Vareth. She pulled up the historical database and searched. The results confirmed her suspicion. The Zephrons had called themselves the Vareth after conquering Earth. They had renamed themselves to match their new homeworld. Should we respond? The communications officer asked. Arya hesitated. Every fiber of her being wanted to order an immediate attack. The fleet could obliterate the Vareth defenses in minutes. They could reclaim Earth by force and make the descendants of their ancient enemy pay for the crimes of their ancestors. But something held her back. Run a deeper analysis, she said. I want genetic scans. Compare them to the old Zephron profiles in our database. The science officer worked for several minutes. When she looked up, confusion marked her face. Commander, the genetic markers do not match. These Vareth are related to the Zephrons, but they have changed significantly. The evolution is consistent with 450,000 years of adaptation. They are not the same species that drove us away. Arya felt the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders. The situation was more complicated than she had imagined. These were not the Zephrons who had destroyed humanity. These were their distant descendants, so far removed that they might not even know humans had ever existed. The communications officer spoke again. Commander, they are powering up their defense systems. They are afraid of us. Should I send a response? The entire bridge waited for her decision. 3,000 ships hung in space, weapons armed and ready. Millions of humans waited to hear what their commander would do. Would they attack? Would they negotiate? Would they reveal themselves? Arya Kane looked at Earth one more time. Somewhere down there, beneath those clouds and cities, lay the graves of her ancestors. Somewhere down there was the home humanity had lost. The question was simple but terrible. How far would she go to reclaim it? She opened her mouth to give the order that would change everything. The choice of vengeance or mercy. The silence stretched across the bridge of the Prometheus. Every eye watched Commander Arya Kane, waiting for the word that would determine the fate of billions. She could feel the weight of history pressing against her chest, making it hard to breathe. One command would unleash the full fury of humanity's advanced weaponry. One word would turn Earth into a battlefield. Open a channel, Arya finally said. Let me speak to them directly. The communications officer looked surprised but complied. Channel open, Commander. Arya stepped forward, straightening her uniform. She knew this moment would be recorded, remembered, studied by future generations. Whatever she said now would echo through history. This is Commander Arya Kane of the Human Exodus Fleet, she began. Her voice was clear and strong. We have returned to reclaim our ancestral home. Earth belonged to humanity before your ancestors took it from us. We demand an explanation. The response came quickly, filled with confusion and fear. A Vareth official appeared on the main screen. He had gray skin and 4 arms, but his eyes showed genuine bewilderment. Humans? We have no record of humans ever living on Vareth Prime. You must be mistaken. This world has belonged to our people for over 400,000 years. Your people stole it from us, the tactical officer shouted from his station. Arya raised her hand for silence. Check your oldest historical records, Arya said coldly. Search for references to the Zephron conquest. Search for mentions of an indigenous species called humans. The truth is there if you look. The Vareth official's face showed doubt, but he nodded. I will. I will consult with our historians. Please do not attack. Give us time to investigate your claims. Arya muted the channel and turned to her senior staff. Opinions? The tactical officer spoke first. We should strike now while they are confused. Every moment we wait gives them time to organize a defense. We have overwhelming force. We can end this quickly. But the science officer shook her head. Commander, I have been analyzing their culture through their broadcasts. They are not warriors. Their society is built on art, education, and peaceful cooperation. They have not fought a major war in over 200,000 years. These are not the same beings who destroyed us. They live on stolen land, the tactical officer argued. That makes them complicit. They benefit from genocide even if they did not personally commit it. Arya walked to her command chair and sat down heavily. Her mind raced through possibilities. An attack would be easy. They had the power to clear Earth in days, maybe weeks. But thousands of years of planning had taught humanity patience. Perhaps there was another way. Commander, incoming priority transmission, the communications officer interrupted. It is from someone calling themselves Director Kelvin Thresh. He claims to be a Vareth historian. Put him through, Arya said. An elderly Vareth appeared on the screen. He looked ancient, his gray skin wrinkled with age. But his eyes were sharp and filled with horror. Commander Kane, I have found the records. They were buried deep in our oldest archives, sealed away and forgotten. The accounts they are terrible. My ancestors committed an atrocity. They invaded this world and exterminated the native population. They called it necessary expansion. They called it manifest destiny. But it was genocide. Pure and simple genocide. The historian's hands trembled as he continued. I am looking at images of your species. I am reading accounts of the evacuation. Commander, I am so sorry. My people did something unforgivable. We took everything from you. Arya felt her throat tighten. Hearing Averith admit the truth struck her harder than she expected. Your people destroyed 10 billion humans, she said quietly. They hunted us across the galaxy. They burned our cities and erased our history. And then they pretended we never existed. I know, Director Thresh said, his voice breaking, and I have no words that can make this right. But Commander, you must understand something. The Vareth of today are not the Zephrons of the past. After they conquered Earth, something changed in our species. Perhaps it was guilt. Perhaps it was evolution. But we rejected the old ways. We became peaceful. We have not waged war or conquered other worlds in over 200,000 years. We are different now. Different, Arya repeated bitterly. But you still live on our world. You still breathe our air. You still benefit from what was stolen. Yes, the historian admitted. And that is our shame. We cannot undo what was done. But we can acknowledge it. We can make amends. Please, Commander, do not judge us by the sins of ancestors we never knew. We are willing to negotiate. We are willing to make reparations. Just please do not destroy us. Arya closed her eyes. Images flashed through her mind. Her mother's face as she told stories of Earth. Her grandmother's journals describing the evacuation. The memorial walls on every ship listing the names of the dead. 10 billion names. 10 billion humans who never got to see this moment. She thought about revenge. How sweet it would taste to watch Vareth cities burn. How satisfying it would be to make them feel the terror that humanity felt. But then she thought about what it would cost. 12 billion Vareth lived on Earth. Most of them were civilians. Children, families. People who had done nothing wrong except be born on a stolen world. Commander, her second-in-command said softly, the crew is waiting. The fleet is waiting. What are your orders? Arya opened her eyes and looked at the planet below. Earth. Home. The world humanity had dreamed about for 450,000 years. They could take it by force. They had the power. But what would that make them? Would they become the same as the ancient Zephrons? Would they become conquerors who destroyed civilizations? She made her decision. Open a fleet-wide channel, she commanded. When the communications officer nodded, she spoke to all of humanity. This is Commander Kane. I know what you all want. I know what you have been promised. But I am changing our mission. We will not attack Earth. Instead, we will negotiate with the Vareth. We will demand recognition of our history. We will demand reparations. We will demand the right to return home, but we will not become murderers. We will not repeat the sins committed against us. Some ships sent angry responses. Some crews protested, but most remained silent, waiting to hear more. Arya continued. For 450,000 years, we survived in the darkness. We kept our humanity alive, not just in our bodies, but in our values. We remembered mercy. We remembered justice. We remembered that there is a difference between strength and cruelty. Today, we prove that humanity is strong enough to choose the harder path. She turned back to Director Thresh on the screen. Tell your leaders we are willing to talk. But Earth belongs to humanity. One way or another, we are coming home. The historian bowed his head. Thank you, Commander. You have shown more mercy than we deserve. We will begin preparing for negotiations immediately. As the transmission ended, Arya sat back in her chair. She had made her choice. History would judge whether it was the right one. But she knew one thing with certainty. Humanity had returned to Earth not as conquerors, but as survivors who refused to become the monsters they once fled from. The fleet hung in space, weapons still armed but silent. Below, Earth turned slowly, blue and green and beautiful. Somewhere on that world, humans and Vareth would sit down together and determine the future. It would not be easy. There would be anger, grief, and difficult compromises. But for the first time in 450,000 years, there was hope. Commander Arya Kane allowed herself a small smile. They were home, and they had proven that humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their technology. It was their ability to choose mercy when vengeance would be easier. The age of exile was over. The age of reconciliation had begun.